today.
Thank God. Yeah, you're gonna get fucked. I told you, have a
How?
kid, you're never gonna have time for anything.
I'm not upset about anything.
Oh no,
I'm
I'm not
perfectly
saying you're
fine.
upset. I'm just saying it's gonna get worse. It's gonna be great.
He's just upset. He had a 25-minute nap and the dog got off the couch, so he does
He was
his
like, oh
whole
my God.
flinch thing, and then he's wide the fuck awake. There's no putting him back to sleep. And
It's the
now,
worst thing that's ever happened to him is him getting woken up from a nap.
especially by his cuddle buddy. When you have a big fluffy dog and that's what wakes you up, you're probably pissed. Like, hey,
Oh,
I was here to
Jesus.
lean on you, man.
Oh,
He's getting a
Dan's trying
pair
to
of
get another
headset
headset. Ah, I was like,
you got
oh,
the good
everybody's.
headset.
Yeah. We got lots of editing to do today, boys.
Oh God.
So what are you working on currently?
Yes. Horizontal, vertical content, podcast. I got a couple podcasts to edit. Friday's kind of my turn the phone off and edit day. So it's one of those days. But this is a great break, man, because I've been going at it for a while.
So you took a break from editing podcasts to do a podcast.
Yeah. How
What
funny
kind of
is
shit is
that?
that? He's like, they're gonna cut up the clips and just send them to me. It's fine. I don't have to do it myself.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
What's
I
one
have
way
some
to do something you
editors
love?
for sure. And I don't know. I don't let editors edit my podcast. I did that for a while, but it's like they weren't there. They don't, so I generally try to edit my own stuff, but video, no, I have some editors that are awesome.
Yeah. I learned how to do a lot of video stuff by just kind of getting around and fucking around and finding out. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Holy crap. Like this is kind of simple. And then if you edit it yourself, I'm going to kill my German short-haired pointer. If you edit it yourself, you kind of know where all the time marks are. So you know when shit happens. Yeah.
Exactly.
You shouldn't say stuff like that to this experienced hunter that we have on the podcast. Your dog might actually go down if we needed to.
No, she's really cool. We're going rabbit hunting tomorrow. So I took her dove hunting in September, and she just took to it like a fish in water. Like I shot a dove out of the air. She ran. She caught it midair. It was I wish I had my phone out, but when I go hunting, I go out to the field. I don't take my phone out. It's kind of
that's the point of hunting.
Yeah,
just to get away from technology.
All the other shit.
And to hunt. Well, today we'll welcome to the podcast Mr. Dan from Elk Shape. I found you a couple of weeks ago on YouTube. I was looking at some stuff from Cam Haynes, and one of your videos popped up, and I started watching a couple of them. And my wife now thinks that I'm trying to be an avid bow hunter or something like that because I watched some of your videos. But one of them that actually really caught my eye was your home gym. And so I thought I'd reach out. You look like you're a pretty interesting dude. Look like you're outside the regular norm of life. You do some pretty interesting things. You want to tell the people a little bit what you kind of get into on your daily basis?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, fellas. It's an honor. And Cameron Haynes is pretty psycho dude. And if you ever spend time with him, he's genuinely one of the hardest working guys I know. And he's been a friend of mine for a long time, man, over a decade, and he's a good dude. But over at Elkshape HQ, I'm kind of I'll say content creator. I like that. But I'm just an elk hunter. I love elk hunting. It's my passion. It's kind of what makes me tick besides faith and family. And so I am obsessed with elk hunting. So I've kind of made my life revolve around that, to the extent of having a gym to train for elk hunting, to have an archery range to get ready for elk hunting, and to have a job like this to where I have control of my schedule to a degree and get as much time to go elk hunting, and just trying to be a great husband and an awesome dad as well. Obviously those are more important than hunting, but yeah, hunting's kind of like my why. I leverage it to do stuff I don't want to do, and the stuff I don't want to do makes me better. So we'll keep doing it,
Yeah.
Where do you live, Dan?
I'm in the state of Washington, up here real close to Canada, 2 hours away from Canada. It's cold as balls here right now.
British Columbia, close.
Yeah, I could be up in BC in 2 hours.
Jesus Christ. I'm in Colorado in the mountains, and my first year of elk hunting was this year. And they say you get one in every 10 years you can get an elk if you're good. So that's kind of like the average. I went out, and it was my first time. Me and my buddy, my neighbor Andrew, kind of walking around in the Pike National Forest, and I stop on the cusp of this hill. There's a draw, and then it's a hill that goes straight up. I mean, when I say like a grade, it's like a fucking 6% grade straight up. I'm like, fuck is that brown thing moving over there? And I'm like, Andrew, just stop. And we sit down beside a rock and we wait. I pick up my bow and look at this elk. He turns broadside on me, I think like 65 yards away. And I was like, oh shit, it's about to happen. So, you know how you kind of look and you're like, oh my God, all this adrenaline's going through. You're like, man, I'm going to shoot this fucking thing. I'm going to kill this. I'm going to eat this. This is going to be so amazing. I put my pin.
You missed, didn't
just
you?
a dude. I put this. I have 3 pins. I have one set for 40, 50, and 70. I skipped 60. I try to skip in between. I took the 70 pin and I put it just a little bit too high and it went like 6 inches over the back. Elk went straight up the hill. We go back to where kind of replacing where he was at. We get there and I look at this hill and I remember watching this elk run up the hill and he sprinted up the hill. I mean, it was like nothing. And I get to the hill and I'm like, holy fuck, man. I got a backpack on my back. I got my bow and some water and GPS and everything. I'm like, dude, fuck that. I'm not running up there.
I mean, he's just got a shit ton of more weight and antlers. So
yeah, and antlers. He just ran up a hill, and I was like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing now." And it was another like after that we walked in 3.5 miles, and then we covered another 6 miles of just kind of jumping from point to point. Sat down midday, took a break, called him in again in the evening time, and it's funny enough here this year they weren't making a sound. Even until late September, they still weren't making a sound. And I think it's because it just didn't get cold enough this year. But that was that was actually worth it, being able to do that and get that little rush. It kind of reminds me of being back in the military again. It was pretty cool. But dude, I gotta go up to Washington and try to
you have a lot of places to go this year.
I had to go a lot of places this year, and I've set aside time the last 3 weeks of September. I am not going to work. I'm going to go elk hunting, and fuck that. I'm going to get one this year.
You need to go see Brian.
Yeah.
We just had, I don't know, do you know who Brian Chantosh is from Crooked Butterfly? Okay. I tell you, look him up. He does some hunting and stuff like that, but he does a lot of mindset stuff with some athletes. He does it with a lot of veterans. He just finished a row across the Atlantic Ocean with 3 other dudes. So he's very outdoorsy, and he has, what is that, the name of his thing? What is it called? The Big Fish Foundation. He gets a bunch of like celebrities or like fitness celebrities, kind of like CrossFitters and stuff like that. People who are big in those spaces or just like outdoorsy kind of people, and brings them over to his house, and people have a fundraiser to either get to go participate in it, etc. And then it's like I think he said 30-hour or 40-hour long workout of like, they just kind of do like various things of just kind of like fuck you up type deal to like get people to go through their mental states and push farther than they thought they could. So good dude. If you ever get the chance, just look him up. Whether you follow him or not, it's up to you.
So he's the guy that, is he married to Nicole Carroll?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I have seen some of his stuff just because of Nicole knowing of
not
her.
very many people know the two of them are together. I didn't know it was kind of not a secret, but it was kind of like an unknown. But he did my CrossFit level 1. He was my small group leader or whatever they call him. Good dude. We had a lot of great conversations. Him with a beer at the end of the night is real storyteller. He's got a whole bunch of stories from the Marines and stuff. So good for him. How long have you been hunting? And what is the weapon of choice you've had for the longest?
Both.
Yeah, no, you never know. Man. Yeah, no, I shot a bear in 2022 with a rifle. But that was the last time. Before that was 2001. So I've been bow hunting pretty seriously since 2001. That's when I picked up my first bow. I wasn't like a kid either. I was like probably 20 when I started bow hunting. Self-taught, which is not what I recommend. If you're interested in getting into bow hunting, go hire a coach, go get some instruction, learn some good habits and fundamentals. But I heard my first elk bugle that year when I got a bow. and that's all she wrote. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Ken was saying that he didn't hear him talk much last year. And that's kind of happened state to state
Yeah.
a little bit, but it also could be unit to unit. You know, you could be in an area with 4 basins and nothing's talking, and you know they're there. They're just not talking during the daylight. But while you're sleeping, I guarantee they're talking a little bit. They're up all night.
Yeah. Just
That's
running,
just what
eating.
elk do. But you know, it's crazy how you could just be a quarter mile away from where it's going crazy, nuts, rut, frenzy, and you don't know nothing about it. And that's what I love about elk hunting, man. It's hard. Like, yeah, they do go up mountains in 4-wheel drive while
Yeah,
you
it's
sit there
crazy.
and go, oh, it's very physically, and it's actually way more mentally daunting, which is probably why the success rates hover under 10% on public land for elk. And that's
Yeah.
what drew me to bow hunting is just, it was another level. It was another step, and you could half-ass it, but you're going to see those kind of results, or you could go all in. And that's what attracted me to it.
I've heard from a couple of different, whether it's YouTube channels or just people telling their various stories. Elk hunting is not like spiritual-esque, but it is probably, I've heard, like the hardest version of bow hunting, right? If you're going to use a bow, and it is the most daunting mentally. Is that true? Or have you had that experience?
I mean, I can't speak for other people's experiences, but I'm here to tell you that for me, I go get the most clarity when I spend a week or a month elk hunting and I come home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm different than when I left, and different in that I'm a better version. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father, a better employee or employer. I'm a little bit more whole. I've had time to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I've, like you were saying before we hit record, like get rid of the notifications
Mm-hmm.
and the phone and the distractions, like just disconnect and connect with the creator. Yeah, there's a spiritual component to, for me, 100%. And I think that's part of the allure as well, as obviously the adventure, the landscapes, and securing some perfect protein for the freezer.
Yeah.
It's really a great
For like a
combination.
whole year. So how do you, as like how you said, you're a content creator, and I know that that's like a new term for a lot of people. I think it's justified, and I think it's a good term to go through all this. But like you just said, when you go out and you gain clarity and you put the phone away and no more notifications, how do you balance trying to get content to like show people what you're doing, get them interested in it, and then being able to explain it to create content? How do you balance that between when you go out and when you're trying to push these I guess like the view of what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how to answer that exactly, but I'll tell you, creating content does not take precedence for me
No.
when I'm elk hunting. Elk hunting's pure. Elk hunting is, I put it up on a pedestal, man. Like nothing's going to get in the way of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've done it long enough to where I know how to prioritize things in a way where nothing's going to get in the way, except for maybe catastrophic events, which have happened. My wife, 1 year, decided to try to cut all her fingers off with the skill saw while I was gone, and we had little ones in diapers. So try changing your boy's diaper with one hand. It's hard, so I had to come home for that. But other than that, I'm out there. I'm not worried about, oh, it's golden hour. Let's get cameras out and shoot some content. I could give a shit less about content. And I actually am filming less and less of actual hunting because it's special to me. It's sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get just as many views doing other things besides the actual hunting part of it and showing all the things I'm doing behind the scenes. So for me, no, man, it's not that important. We'll get a few things, a couple snackable pieces here or there, but I'm not waking up wondering about what content I'm going to film that day. I'm just trying to get an arrow in between both lungs of a big bull. That's all I'm worried about.
So do you have like a camera guy per se? Like if you do go out and you are getting any content, like if you were to while you're hunting, do you have somebody like that who just kind of comes out with you, or is it all you hands on? Because I would
Hey,
imagine trying to hunt and do it at the same time is not doesn't go well.
I've definitely had cameramen, and I will have some camera bros this year, but I'm backing away from it. I really am. Especially like you said, you found me on YouTube. YouTube for our channel, our audience is like, I hire a cameraman. He's got to keep up. He's got to worry about surviving his own food, sleep, and water. And he's got to carry extra camera gear. And he's got to like try to follow me around. And I'm psycho in the Elk Mountains, man. Like I never quit, never stop. And I just grind.
Yeah.
And it's an abundance of just effort. And to be a camera person for me sucks. And then it's hard for me to have a camera guy who, you know, just it's another person who smells. Animals smell humans. So
Yeah.
more scent, more sound, and then I got to worry about them. So
Dragging ass.
And then we watch the views on YouTube, and I can get way more views like geeking out on some specific part of archery technique or equipment compared to a video of us killing an elk in the backcountry, which takes a lot of time to edit those. And it's just a lot of resources. So I'm getting away from filming hunts, honestly. And that's why it's an easier question to answer right now is like, I just don't care that much to film my stuff. I want to take some good photos. I want to get some good vertical like pieces here or there. But ultimately for my audience, that's like low on their, like some guys would say they really want to see it, but the majority, the views aren't there to warrant all the pain in the ass. So
yeah,
knock yourselves out. I wouldn't recommend it.
I put it this way: if you're carrying a bow and a 60-pound ruck with dress bags and everything else in it, water, you know, especially if you're gonna like sleep out there where you're hunting at, dude, that's rough. Now imagine being a cameraman carrying the same shit, plus cameras, plus lenses, plus all this other shit to just document tripods. That's horrible. And then like I cannot I don't know how many times you've been hunting before, Steve, like where you're doing big game and you're actually walking around like a lot. Like your smell is a motherfucker. So I have a tough box.
Both of us knowing what being in the field for a couple of weeks or just being outside for a while, walking around is, at some point your grundle, you can't keep that from not smelling.
Yeah.
And so any animal within like a spitting distance is going to know. Not
even a spitting distance, Steve. I mean like almost a half mile away they will smell you.
That's more or less what I meant. I'm not worried about the rabbits and the squirrels next to me. I'm talking about spitting distance for a shot. But
I have like a vacuum. I have a vacuum cleaner with vacuum seal bags that are special for all of my hunting shit, for big game hunting, on my clothes. It gets vacuum sealed, and that vacuum goes in the garage, and nothing else touches that vacuum. Nothing else touches that tough box. Before I even get in that box, I wash my hands. I take a shower the night before in this, I can't remember what it's called. I got it from Shields.
Removal.
It's basically like a neutral scent soap, and I don't condition or shampoo my hair for about a week before I go out. You know, before I leave out, I get up early in the morning, I take a shower in this stuff, I walk out, I deodorize my car, I put all my shit in the car, in the vacuum bags, go out there, I change in the field, and I just start walking. Like I don't.
You just like being naked around animals, don't you?
I fucking love being outside. Like I don't say I love being outside, but I love being outside with a purpose. You know, elk hunt, like hunting deer, like whitetail is where I started. I remember the first time I shot a bow, I'm kind of like you, Dan. It was 2011. I got my first really shitty bow. I think it was a PSE Nitro or something like that. It was super duper old from like 2004 or something. And me and my squad leader went out before PT one day. We went out hunting and sitting in the tree stand. Nothing came out. Got ready to go back to work about 8 o'clock. We had our uniform in the car. Jump out of the tree stand. 2 huge doe walk out in front of us. And I was like, you know what? It's the end of the season. I'm going to try this. First white-tailed deer right there. I dressed her right there in the woods and then put her on my back and walked out and then cut her into chunks right beside the car. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to not do this ever again. That meat lasted me and my kid and my like a year, you know, between the sausage, you know, the rump roast, the steaks I got off with the back straps, all that. I made stew and everything for months. And
you're eating that whitetail ass for a while, huh?
Dude, that shit was delicious. Man. And then I had an elk steak for the first time in my life last year. holy shit. I was like, this is this is better than a fucking ribeye. It's not even fatty and it's delicious.
Honestly, the cut that I like the most, especially here in Texas, is if you can get some backstrap done like Texas barbecue style or like smoked. And I think Rogan said he did it a couple months ago, and I've had that up in Austin. The backstrap was fucking delicious.
Yeah, you'll never get that from me if I kill an animal. If I go out and I kill an animal and you ask me for meat, I'm gonna be like, "Were you there when I killed it?" Like, nope. I'm like, here's a shitty piece of rump roast. I'll give you that. Like, I'll give you a little piece of that, but all the other shit, you're not getting anything else.
So, quick question, Dan. In your entire time hunting, ballpark. I mean, if you know, how many kills do you have with a bow?
Oh, I don't know, man. Honestly, I couldn't tell you that.
You're gonna tell me you know how many misses you have?
No, I don't. I don't know. I've had a freezer full of animals since the beginning of bow hunting for me.
Mhm.
So I don't buy meat, I can tell you that much. So like I live off elk meat predominantly, deer, antelope, bear.
Jesus.
I have 5 freezers in my house. 2 of them are chest. Like the whole
God
family
damn.
eats it. My friends come over, so I'm just not into buying meat.
Yeah.
No. Not when you can procure it
You
yourself.
pay
I can get it.
you pay $100 for your draw tag here in Colorado. You pay $23 for your stamp or your hip, not hip stamp, but your actual physical license itself. And you go out and whatever the cost you incur with gas is how much you pay to get 2 years worth of meat.
Yeah, no, it's way more. It's way more expensive for me. I hunt all over the place, like so out of state tags. That's where most of these state agencies make their loot is off non-resident schmucks like me. And each state is in charge of the wildlife. It's their wildlife. So Colorado elk is your guys' elk, not mine. So when I come over there, I'm going to pay 10x to what your fees are. But that's what those departments, that's how they get their budget. That's how they make their money. But for a lot of guys, they'll have to pay and have their meat processed or whatever. So I've invested in all the butchering stuff. So we butcher our own meat, and it's kind of a process, but it's been a rewarding one. I usually get a couple elk a year with a bow, and you guys have some CrossFit background. I used to own a CrossFit gym, and I would I've done this a handful of times where maybe I've killed 3 or 4 bulls in a year, and I'll take one, butcher it, label it, get it all perfect, and then I'll bring it to the gym and in big coolers. And by the end of the day, there's nothing left in it, and all the members of that gym are probably stoked to try some wild organic elk meat. And this guy killed it. Like, I don't think they'll look at hunting negatively. And these are meat eaters that probably just don't do their own killing. So to me, there's always the benefit of sharing some of your harvest with, not anti-hunters, but just people that are not maybe undecided or indifferent and eat meat, but just never tasted wild game, which I think is way healthier for you.
Yeah. So I know for a fact, well, I don't actually, you haven't said it, but I would assume for a fact, I guess, I know where you kind of fall in the spectrum of there's the new, I don't want to say like problem or like issues that arise where like there are people who, whether you're vegan, you don't approve of the hunting or any of it at all. There's some people who hunt, but they don't like people who hunt certain animals. And then there's the people who, they eat meat, but they don't want to know that it's been killed or slaughtered. They don't want to know the in-betweens of it. Or like the mass farming, like my wife, I think we watched Yellowstone one time and they slaughtered a bull and she was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "That's not going to stop you from having dinner, right?" She was like, "No, but that's, you can all want to know about that." Same way people don't want to know about how McDonald's chicken nugget because it's disgusting.
Yes,
right. When you see that video, you're like, "No, fuck that. I'm done. Never having that." So I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard through Cam Haynes, Rich Froning, he said he had some interactions with people. What's the interaction you have or at least have been exposed to as it comes to like people noticing what you do, either approving, disapproving, like the various different types of mindsets that you've experienced?
I've been very fortunate. I really haven't got much negativity or people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, randomly somebody might stumble upon a platform that I'm on and be like, "You're a pig. I hate you. I hope your children die." Death threat like that. Yeah, that does happen.
God damn.
That's fucking steep.
Seriously.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And that's not a big deal. I bet I get more hate, as the kids would say, like more spew that's venom from other hunters. Like the hunting community is one of the most dog eat dog. They're just hard on each other. It can be ego driven.
Why so?
And
Why?
you know, I don't know. Maybe it's predominantly males that hunt. There's a component besides the wild game to where like a size of the antlers or they'll pick apart anything. Did you do it with a bow? Well, did you do it with a traditional bow, a longbow, or was it on public or private? Did you hire an outfitter? Did you kill it with a rifle? So all these, there's some infighting. I'm sure that's in every community, but my observations is like, man, there's so many people that don't know the positivity of hunting and what it does conservation wise and the money and the dollars, and that it's a protected resource that's valued. It's why they're there. So for me, no, I haven't not had a lot. I mean, definitely some, don't get it twisted, but I get more from like-minded peers that disagree with some aspect of what I'm putting out there on the interwebs.
That's kind of what I had to explain to a friend once. Most of the people I work around work in an office now. No more people that go out in the field, people that would be interested in going out hunting with me, point blank, period. And I was explaining to this individual, I'm not going to say name, gender, or anything, because they might listen to this and go, "Oh, he's an asshole." No. He or she was like, "Hey, what you're doing is inhumane. Like, you're killing an animal, da da da." I'm like, "Well, let me sit down and talk to you about it like this. I'm giving that animal a more humane way of death. Like, I'm giving it a way gentler death. Like,
when you explain nature's death?
Yeah, like I explained it all. I was like, I'm putting an arrow through both of its lungs or its heart.
Hopefully.
If I'm really lucky. Hopefully. Like, and that death's going to be maybe 2 to 3 minutes, as opposed to a mountain lion grabbing that animal and then ripping it to pieces and eating it like midsection first, like stomach first, because they're going to go for the liver and all the vital organs. It's just full of nutrition. Like, that's the thing I do. I kill an animal, I take the liver, I take kidneys, I cut it up, or heart, I cut it up, and I make stir fry out of it. It's pretty fucking good. But I had to explain this to this individual, and I was like, do you know what happens to your cheeseburger when you have a cow go through a slaughterhouse? Like, they're packed in these really small areas. They're walked up these trails for hours at a time, just walking in there slowly, sleeping in their own shit and piss, and
curve down their side, cut the neck, flip them back over, and
flip them over, hit them with a hose, hit the ground with a hose, and then keep it moving to the next one. I'm like, I'm doing way better than that. I'm going out of my dollars. Like, I found out where all our dollars go for our tags here in Colorado, and most of it's to fire prevention. So they're out there paying park rangers to dig fire breaks. We pay for the smoke jumpers' salaries. We pay for fire department salaries to keep all these places from burning down, because we're like wildfire prevalent. And a whole bunch of biological and ecological like stabilization goes in that too. Like, having all these ecologists and biologists go out and go, okay, it's unbalanced or it's skewed this way, so we need to have more, elk killed, because disease management
tags need to go up for this species versus that species.
We had a culling this year for elk in the San Jose Valley or San Juan, one of the two, I can't remember, but it was out past Steamboat Springs, where they were like, hey, anything that's not a female, you got to pop them, you got to kill them. We got to kill them, because they're carrying, I can't remember the name of the disease. They were carrying a disease, and dude, I went out there just to see. There were like a herd, and it's like something from The Lion King. All the bones, it was like a rotting boneyard of just dead elk, and it wasn't from hunters. It was disease. Yeah, it was disease. I can't remember what it was. I'll look it up here in a second, but it was just unfortunate. It made me sad. I'm like, damn, man, like, and people don't want to, support people hunting within regulations.
Well, a lot of people, they look at their dogs or their cats and they affiliate somehow nature with your domicile animals. But do either one of you guys follow, what's that count? Nature's Metal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that taught me very quickly, as soon as social media came out, that there is a cruel world in nature. So it was when I first kind of got into hunting, and I wouldn't even say like I'm an avid hunter. I don't have a rifle. I don't have a bow right now. Granted, I live in a city, and I don't want to say I have better things to do, but I have not prioritized getting into hunting very much. And my wife would probably be confused if I all of a sudden started. So we'll work that in maybe one of these trips where I go to Colorado. But I think it's important. It's something I've kind of started to pay more attention to, because once we do move and I'm kind of outside of a city again, I would like to have like a couple of freezers. I would like to start getting into like at least meat being something that I produce for our family's needs, especially because, like you said, the cost of each thing, if you do it correctly inside your own state, and whether you're trying to get elk or you're trying to just get deer or, etc., or even fishing, it's less expensive. It's a little bit more humbling, I guess, to be able to produce that for your family. So that's something I would like to do. But what is this, Ken?
This is the
Is this?
culling that I was talking about. Yeah, so because it's kind of like people, back in the days of the depression, well, before the depression, let's go back to like the Black Plague. You had a lot of people living in places and they weren't clean.
Mhm.
Pests, kind of things like that end up getting booming as well, and disease spreads. And that's what was happening here. A bunch of ranchers were losing ranch land to elk. Elk were killing their cattle. Elk were kind of rampaging through neighborhoods and then spreading disease. And they were like, look, we gotta, and it was antlerless, my bad. So anything that was antlerless, you could kill any quantity. They didn't care. They were just, you had to take the carcass of anything you killed. So, and I was like, that's free. That's awesome. I was 2 days late. No, I was 2 days late on the application, called the the CPW people, and they put me on the wait list and never called me back. And I was so sad. I was like, man, wish I had got that earlier. But yeah.
So Dan, let me ask you, as you're kind of going through your content creation, and as you're, an avid bow hunter, what is the prevalent mission outside of just providing for your family, that you do the content creation and you're putting this view out there for the world?
Oh man. I guess the focus of the brand Elkshape started kind of like a grassroots mission to help people like Ken, who, missed his first year, and he's in what I would call the elk hunting learning curve, and it's a steep one.
It's fucking
No
hard.
pun intended. It's just it's really hard to get one killed with a bow, especially on public land. And there's a lot of little nuanced things that you're, going to learn along the way. Like, I don't know anyone who's ever set their bow up with a 3-pin 40, 50, 70. Like, maybe something I don't, but that's like, there's all these little things that you got to look into as far as your fitness, your gear, your mindset, how you practice, how you play. And then your understanding of elk behavior, biology,
I
the
did not
angle
know
of
that.
conservation, all that kind of stuff. So we kind of started Elkshape because I sucked at elk hunting, man, like just about everybody does. Some people don't, but I started in 01, killed a bull 5 minutes into a rifle hunt, grabbed a bow, didn't kill one till 2006. And it wasn't for a lack of time. Dude, I had 30 days every year to do it, like in the mountains.
Yeah.
I had opportunities. You asked me about misses. I'm like, yeah, I've missed a bunch, especially my early days. I just black out and send it. I didn't have any mentorship. I had no mentorship. And so we really stepped up Elkshape to help mentor people that are maybe completely new to hunting, or maybe they just don't have consistent success. Because, Ken almost killed one his first time out there. And then he would have been like, this shit's easy.
Yeah.
And then he would have learned the hard way that actually you got lucky as hell that first year. So there's guys that have, a little bit of first time luck, and then they get into the drought. So we started Elkshape to help people with the elk hunting learning curve. Along the way, we learned that you could help people with other things besides elk hunting. You can disguise all this stuff around elk hunting, but really you can leverage elk hunting to make sure that you are the best version of yourself outside of hunting. And then we just got into these rabbit holes where it's like, why don't you figure out what your spouse's version of elk hunting is and actually show some actual support and interest in what she's into
That's
versus,
beautiful.
doing a self-centered elk hunt every year. Because when you elk hunt, you're withdrawing out of an account of love with your family, especially if you elk hunt like I do, where like, bros, I'm like gone the entire month. I will miss 30 days of my children's life every year elk hunting. It's a pretty selfish pursuit. So I try to tip the scales. You asked about balance. There's a lot to balancing that equation and being the, year round concerned with spending time, daddy-daughter dates, helping my son with his wrestling, taking my wife on weekly dates, planning family vacations that I don't really want to do, but we need to do it because it's not, you know what I mean? So there's so much to elk hunting besides just elk hunting. So that's kind of what Elkshape started, was a leveraging of elk hunting.
I think this year I actually got my son his first bow. It cost me $800, and we set out, and that was the best bonding experience I think I had gotten with him, because he was so frustrated. Like I've never seen this 13-year-old so frustrated about not being good at something until he picked up a bow. We go out, and I was like, yeah, Isaac, I'm going elk hunting this weekend, da da da. He's like, oh, can I go? I was like, you really want to do that? He's like, yeah, sure. So we went to Cabela's. I bought him enough, clothes, layers, everything, gloves, got his bow and all that. I walked out with I think it was like $1,200 total tab. I was like, okay, cool. We're making an investment. We go out there and we're walking. It starts raining, and we're walking and sitting under trees, waiting, calling. And he's like, Jesus Christ, this sucks. He's looking at me like, I fucking hate you.
I didn't know I opted in for a punishment.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't know. He looked at me. He's like, what did I do wrong? And I opened up an MRE, and he was like, what is that? I was like, we're eating MREs, dog. Like, it's a very minimal smell. I don't have to make a fire. We're eating. Did that. Got the tent out. He was like, we're sleeping out here. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, we're sleeping out.
You didn't figure that we weren't turning back after the sun dropped?
Yeah, and I was like, if we kill an elk, then I will start a fire, and we will cook the elk with the cast iron skillet we have out here. It'll be a good time. We didn't get an elk, but we got a rabbit. I let him, I shot a rabbit with my bow. I was like, here we go. We cooked it over the fire. He ate that rabbit.
Craftsman.
Yeah, he ate that rabbit, and he looked at me, and he was like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. I'm like, is it because you're hungry? He's like, no, because we did something for it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, he had and I was like, I feel like the best fucking father on the face of the planet right now.
You better start learning how to make Cheerios or some shit.
Bro, and he's been bugging me. Like, he's like, oh man, because we're going rabbit hunt tomorrow, taking the pointer out. And he was like, when are we going elk hunting again? I'm like, we got to wait all the way until September, my man. And he's like, all right, I remember we got to go to the range. And he keeps saying every weekend, let's go to the range. So I'm trying to get out there with him, but I understand that give and take portion.
You got more than a $1,200 tab now,
bro. Yeah, it's bad. Like, it's bad now. It's between the elk hunting and the track and the basketball, which he's extremely happy about, and the band and the instruments and everything. I think Dan has a really good point where you have to give and take some shit. You got to kind of go, all right, if I'm spending 4 days out here, which his sister isn't able to come because she's too young, I go back and daddy-daughter date time. I'm sit there and let her paint my nails, and we're paint her nails, and we're doing a thing. So yeah,
you look like a hot pink kind of guy.
Honestly, I let her do black because I was like, I can take black off. Black kind of matches everything else, and it's my toes, not my fingers.
Oh,
but yeah, that makes sense, Dan. What else? I mean, when you go out, how long are you going out? 72 hours, 48 hours, 96?
It just depends on where we're going. I can just kind of maybe give you a snapshot. Like last year, I left my Washington State on the 28th of August. And I didn't return till about the 28th of September. So 4 weeks, started in Idaho, drove down to New Mexico, back to Idaho, then to Montana, and then home. So, and we stacked them up. I think I killed three bulls last year. And it's just, when you get home, you want to see your family and you do all that, but then you got to unpack all this stuff for the last month. Oh, and you got to butcher 3 bulls. So it's
what that sounds a lot like, Ken?
Sounds like NTC. Sounds like NTC.
I was just about to say that sounds a lot like a deployment. It sounds a lot like NTC rotations. Because as soon as you come home, you spend that night. You probably go out, get something really good for dinner,
You're like,
spend time with the kids or with the wife or with the family, whomever, or even if you're in the barracks like by yourself as soldiers. Fuck the DFAC. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm
pulling
getting me
out.
some good shit and go back relax. And then the next day, when you're like,
You're like, oh fuck.
as soon as
I
you got to
want to.
go back to work, it's like, shit.
I
I got
want
a
to talk.
bunch of shit to deal with. I didn't deal with yet.
I want to talk about this because this is really impressive. People's not watching. I think is a 300. What did it say? Cell tower, top of a mountain name. Yeah, it was 303 yards.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. That's dude.
Wait,
there's a
how
funny
the
story behind that, but yeah.
Okay, tell the funny story. Let's tell the funny story before we play the video.
So like, I do have a producer, is what I call him, Producer Tim. But I hired a guy who is way more artistic, way better behind the lens, editor, a long time ago, to help me out with my channel. And he's awesome. He's actually a really good friend, like one of my best buds. But his job is to come up with ideas, and he's just like, damn, we need to see how far you can shoot a bow. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, last year we filmed you shoot a balloon at like 165 yards and in slow-mo, and that was really cool. He's like, I'd love to see us shoot like whatever. So we just went out to my dad's ranch. He's got like 10, 15 acres right there.
Yeah.
And all I did is I just pulled my bow back, and there was a mountain in the background with a cell tower on it. And the trajectory of an arrow, if you hold at a 45-degree angle, obviously that's going to send it the furthest.
Yeah.
This wasn't quite that steep of a shot, but I had a cell tower I could aim at, like the specific little part of it at the top of the cell tower.
Windage it.
On top of a mountain. And I could look at the flag at my dad's house and see kind of which way the wind's blowing. So I literally took a couple shots standing in the same spot, not at a target. And we just got down there and saw where the arrows hit. And all the arrows hit really pretty damn close.
You had a good group.
And so we put a target right where they hit. And I'm telling you, in less than about 7 arrows, I could hit the target consistently at 300 yards with a compound bow. Now, I'm not a great, phenomenal, world-class archer. I'm not a pro. Yeah.
Jesus.
It's a good song choice.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Jesus Christ.
But that's what it is, man. It's just and some people think it's fake or whatever, but the camera guy's got to be close to 100 yards behind me because he's filming with a 600 millimeter lens.
Oh yeah, I understand.
And the arrow goes out of frame and then drops down, and you can see the angle that the arrow drops into the target. I mean, it's in the hang time forever, but yeah, I think anyone could do that. I don't think it was that hard, because I'm not that good at archery. It's just a little practice.
You keep saying you're not that good. Stop, man.
Some might say that you're decent.
Oh, no, there's always going to be somebody better.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so how is Elk Shape, I guess, how's it doing more or less? Like since you started it, what's the growth that you've really seen?
Yeah.
And I meant to ask this before. You were talking about kind of who your audience was, or like what kind of feedback you got from some of your audience. Who do you think, or who do you know from your analytics that your audience realistically is?
Man, I should probably spend more time on the Instagram analytics stuff. I really don't.
You get lost in it very easily.
I just set my life up to do what I enjoy or what I'm good at from a standpoint of a career thing. So like if there's stuff that I need to know about or whatever, I'll try to hire it out. Let me give you some examples. Like studying YouTube analytics, I never do it. I hired a guy. He's the producer. He oversees everything. And he's in charge of everything that goes with that. And then my job is to be in front of the camera. I'll be behind the camera, but my job is to edit some here and there, but just be kind of the guy. On the Instagram analytics stuff, I don't know. I'm not very good at Instagram, in my opinion. Like I try to make cool shit, and I try to post regularly, and I have guys that help me now edit for me and film for me, and we just come up with cool stuff. But my audience is probably men driven, 25 to 45 is what I'm guessing. And I just try to convey this message of like, when you scroll Instagram, everyone's trying to sell you something. So let's just tell people what we're trying to sell them. And I say it on almost every video. I'm trying to sell you guys hard work. Like that's the lifestyle that I'm leading, and I'm trying to sell you what I'm doing. And I just believe in hard work. That's it. That's what's for sale. Buy it, bitch, or don't. I don't care. That's what's up. And I'm very intense personality. If you guys hung out with me, I'd probably fit in with you guys. Like I don't have military background, but I probably would fit in real well in that community. I'm just like, no bullshit, shoot you straight, and
he's got the sweatshirt for it, so
yeah, no fluff, and I believe in that. Just keep it real, be authentic, and your audience will be what it's going to be. And so that's kind of what we do.
That's kind of the thought process of this podcast. Is kind of like, oh man, I'm like, we should have more viewers by now. And I'm like, well, we only 50 episodes in.
Yeah, but we also don't do scripts very often. We do them sometimes, and we're toying with it. Where sometimes, like I did it a couple of weeks ago with a female guest that we had on the show, and it worked well. And she was just an announcer for more like an MC for different events, like CrossFit events mainly. And that helped steer the conversation because it was somebody who I thought was interesting and who has an interesting job that most people don't know about. But then after you kind of got outside the job, it seemed like another CrossFitter who goes to a gym or, almost like an influencer of sorts. But she wasn't peddling anything. She was kind of like you, where she was just like, hey, I am affiliated with these companies. Here you go. Boom. But a script was able to kind of do a little bit more with that, where you kind of get more out of the conversation. But I feel like Instagram especially is probably now, I don't want to say the cool kid app. Like there's TikTok, which is just like, you get fucking lost in that shit if you have it. I don't. No. Twitter is just a fucking rage cage.
It's more of a rage cage now that Elon bought it. People can actually say shit and not get banned. Well, I'm like, holy shit, look at the ideas that are coming out now.
It is a lot like Facebook, except Facebook got old because Facebook was meant to make a post that was all writing and then, I don't know, maybe add some pictures. But it was, also a mass communication one where you were just trying to communicate with like onesies, twosies here and there. At least I felt that way. Instagram, obviously, it's all centered around your picture. Give it a good caption and you'll get a couple extra likes. But realistically, if you're not like a hot chick, like posting some half nude selfie, you're probably maybe ballpark again like 500 or something, or you got to be an athlete, or you got to be some huge fucking personality. But then even like for you, people like Cam Haynes, even like a Rich Froning outside of kind of doing CrossFit, their other Instagram accounts, they have a very specific, like the group, if it's like a 5,000 likes, that's all men 25 to 45 who are in that same thing. They're not sharing that to any chick or any mom, aunt, whatever the fuck. It's all the same exact people. But when you can cut around the bullshit, kind of like Twitter has kind of started to a little bit, and they're giving some people some more stuff. That's the route I think people are starting to like. Is you may not get, what did I see? Selena Gomez is now like the most followed female on social media. I just saw that on Twitter today.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It was real weird. I don't know. It was because she took over Kylie Jenner's spot, so people thought it was a big fucking deal. But
no, people her followers, out Kylie Jenner slept with a pit bull.
I don't fucking know about that.
I don't know. That's what I heard.
the reason why, like, on their following is different, right, is because there is a middleman. They're trying to often sell you either lifestyle or just kind of like, hey, here's like the things that I do, so you should do. And they go everywhere from like 13, 14-year-old boys who think she's good looking all the way up to, I don't know, maybe like creeper 50-year-old dudes. Or even chicks that are, kind of interested in that lifestyle or whatever. And they just want to see happy people or whatever. So theirs is a much broader spectrum. But I like yours. I think our content, or at least what we are trying to do, is straightforward stuff. Here's meet us where we're at, because we're not going in all these other different directions. And maybe that's why we don't get a bigger following. But I think people who kind of cut out the mundane bullshit of trying to sell you something that is not necessary. There's a lot of people who sell hard work, I'm sure, on their Instagram, but they're trying to sell it in a dangle the carrot in front of you kind of way. Not like a, hey, you can achieve this. All you just need to do is be yourself, find what you're passionate about, and then go do it often, go do it under intensity or whatever you want to call it. And then you'll find exactly what you're looking for. But it may not bite you in the fucking face. Sorry, that was a long rant.
That was a lot.
That's good. Like, I think, are you guys trying to grow the podcast specifically or other platforms?
Honestly, man, we came up with this almost a year ago, right, Ken?
You texted me a year ago.
It was like 9-10 months ago. And we just thought that we got tired. I was watching a podcast and I got tired of hearing the same people go on the same certain podcast, right? They kind of do their media round and everybody sits down and they're like, yeah, but what about this? Like, these people aren't talking about the thing that everybody realistically wants to know about. When is somebody going to ask? Whatever. And he and I were talking sports one day, and I was just like, dude, it'd be kick ass if we had a podcast. 20 minutes later, he's like, all right, we got this. We have these things organized. Yeah. When do you want to start shooting? I was like, dude, I don't have a camera. I think it was maybe a week later we did our first episode, and
it started on Zoom.
Mics, started on Zoom, did all the things. And honestly, it was just a way for he and I to kind of talk, get stuff out in the air. First couple of episodes were a little bit, I don't want to say political, but we talked like Ukraine had just been invaded. So that was the thing. Okay. We did a lot of CrossFit related stuff because that's just where we kind of have gravitated from. But I wouldn't say that we're necessarily even trying to grow rapidly. We have a couple of sponsorship opportunities now. Just good companies. We've talked to a lot of other good CrossFit related like space companies. And it's just trying, like, again, with you, like getting you on, that's no different than that girl who was an MC. It's interesting everyday people who are doing stuff that is outside the box.
And I started learning more and more as I like. John Woolley does Make Wads Great Again. If you follow that account, then you kind of know, John is then, right? Probably Dan, maybe.
Oh, I'm friends with Wad Prep Ben. So
okay,
they do a podcast together.
Yeah. Kettlebells and Cocktails. That's the other podcast that John does.
That's a really good name, I gotta say.
Yeah. John's a smart dude. He's a banker by trade. That's his day job. But he told me something that I kind of held to heart. He's like, you have a guest on, have them just broadcast a thumbnail of the episode somewhere and stick it on their story. They don't necessarily have to post it or invite them to collaborate on a reel. That's good. And he's like, always ask them to connect with other people. So I learned a long time ago, even in the Army, that it's not what I know. I could be the smartest motherfucker on the planet, but unless I know people that can help me get my voice out there or help me do things, it doesn't matter. It's really who you know. Like I could be. Let's take, for example, what's his name? Jeffrey Epstein. Let's go there. I'm gonna go dark for a second. Homeboy that was sex trafficking. He was stupid as a box of rocks. He was dumber than a box of rocks, but he knew a lot of people. And he kept building those connections and, getting what he wanted. And I'm like,
it's easy to build connections when you have videos of grown men.
Well, you see, that's that picture of Bill Clinton was pretty fucking funny. He was in a dress. I was like, damn, man. Every time
Bill needs to go in the National Archives.
He's like, you got me in a chokehold, man. But yeah, it's kind of like the networking thing. But how does kind of networking fit into your thing, Dan? How did that help you grow? Is that something you're still doing? Like sponsorships, is that a thing that you look for or that just kind of fell in your lap?
Well, the podcast game is tough. Like I don't, you guys got
no rush to get super great at it.
It's tough, man. Like
there's so many.
I thought I started late 6 years ago doing a podcast, and I still don't do that many episodes. I do one a week. And so I'll see some cats who've started one months ago and they got more episodes than I do. That's not interesting to me. So what I've been trying to do is double down on things that I'm really passionate about and excited. And when collaboration opportunities appear, just run it through a filter of like, cameras aside, would I want to kick it with this person? Yeah. And that's really important to me because it will come through the screen. I'm not an actor, man. I can't pretend to be one. So I think it's important that you line with people that share interesting outlooks and that you guys jive well. And I'm sure there's collaborations where it doesn't go well. But, the CrossFit stuff, I haven't got much into the CrossFit world. even though I freaking owned a CrossFit gym for 11 years. I started doing CrossFit in 2007. We thought we were going to make it to the CrossFit games for so many years. We tried so hard. Oh, we did make it to the games as team members, but I don't count that. Never as individuals. Like, we were into it. We sipped the Kool-Aid pretty hard, but it's kind of come full circle now where I kind of like sold the gym after 11 years and was like, I just want to focus on Elkshape. I want to build it up. And I was able to take that risk, and it's been awesome, man. I've gotten to the point where I chase sponsors in the beginning, and now I don't. They'll come to us, and we'll kind of handpick what actually makes sense for us to have an actual relationship with another company where they want to promote us just as much as we promote them. They want to work together, and they don't want to just give me a deliverable list telling me how high to jump and when to jump.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that. I want to work with companies that are badass, that have cool messaging, and there's stuff that I actually already use. So to answer that sponsorship side of stuff, like, that's not the funnest part of this kind of business for sure. But when you have good ones, it is the best. And I have the best of the best. I work with awesome companies. They're all handpicked, super blessed. And then you asked about collaborations. Like, one thing's cool is like getting Rich Froning on my podcast. That was all because of connections and knowing somebody who knew somebody, where I just mentioned it to them and they were like, brought it to him, and he was like, oh, you want to talk about elk hunting? Yeah. And he, without having those connections, I couldn't just send Rich Froning a direct message on Instagram and be buried.
Oh, don't worry, I've tried 6 times. I've even talked to him. I've even gotten to talk to him in person at a competition while we were both warming up together. And I was like, it was the very last thing I said to him. I was like, look, man, I'm about to get on. You're gonna come in with me. I'm not gonna bother this with you, but I've sent you at least 4 or 5 DMs. I just want to have you on my podcast to talk about everything outside of what you've accomplished in CrossFit.
Yeah.
Everything else. Okay. He was like, dude, that sounds like that'd be awesome. He's like, just hit me back one more time. I'll answer you. That was in August.
This is a busy man. He was probably in August. He was getting ready for elk season. That's why I remember seeing him at the games, and I spoke to him, and he remembered me from a while ago. And I was like,
no, actually, this might have been like September, October time frame.
September. Then he was prepping.
It was after the games.
Yeah, then he was prepping for elk hunting then. But
I mean, we've had what, 5, 6 people from Mayhem, like different varying like sections, athletes. They're all great people, and like we had one on a couple weeks ago who he's like, I know the manager of the gym, I know all the people that work around him.
Oh yeah,
we'll get you in touch. It's still not the easiest thing, because I'm sure, just like you, he is leveraging his time and then who he's going to work with, which even doing a podcast like this, we're not getting paid to do this necessarily. We're not paying you to do this. So there's that time aspect of how do I leverage my time versus what I need to get done. And then, like how you said with me, you were willing to come on, you started your own. So you remember where you started at one point, which I appreciate that, because that's 99% of the time when we do these shows, and we do shows fairly often, sometimes 2-3 times a week, and then space them out. But a lot of the times when people come on, they're like, yeah, sure. Like I got an hour 45 at most. And sometimes if the conversation's really good, you make it past that. Sometimes you don't. But the thing I've learned with this, at least like growing wise, is I attribute it to like how you said not chasing sponsorships before. Like, I don't think that that's what makes a good podcast. That Joe Rogan didn't do that for years. People went to him eventually, and now greatest podcast or biggest podcast in the world. I kind of think of it like when you're a young dude, like maybe in high school, right? And you think like it's cool, like some of your buddies have girlfriends or whatever, and you don't want to be the third wheel. So maybe you kind of go out looking for somebody, or you're like, hey, I need a girlfriend, right? All my buddies got them. I need one now, right? Or even when you're young and in your 20s, you're like, I need that huge job. I need that money-making experience so I can go out and do all these fun things. But if you just sit around, and I shouldn't say sit around, but if you just kind of do your thing, you do what makes you happy, and you kind of wait, good things come to those who wait. I don't want to use that so cliche, but I feel like I met my wife in a time where I was like, hey, I don't need to be doing all of this stuff. I need to just be who I am and just be fine with that. Lo and behold, that happens. Same thing with the move down here. Got the opportunity after I passed up on what I would consider to be a better opportunity because I needed to stay where I was for a little bit longer. And then, oh, hey, not such a bad thing. And now with this, we've looked at a couple of different companies, and I would say like Gooder, they stuck by us so far. They've done great things with us. But if we had gone out chasing everybody, eventually like they're like, hey, can you show us the analytics? How come you haven't grown fast enough? You know what? There's somebody else that we could go pay a couple extra dollars to who, I don't know, they just know a couple of extra people and they've gotten better ratings than you guys. But if you can have one person on who's like, hey, I know a guy, hey, I know the editor over here, or this person over there, we'll get you a shot in, we'll get you to talk to them, do a show with them, and afterwards, like, hey, you know what? We really like you guys. Like, we could hang out. We could invite you places.
Yeah.
Just like with Tosh, he invited us to.
Yesterday.
Yeah, he invited us to do his Big Fish Foundation. And he's like, put your names in, but maybe if not, maybe we brought up the idea. We'll just go up there and do a live show. And
he was like, I dare you. I was like, okay, I will go get the camera that we've spent.
I'll buy the ticket as soon as we're ready.
We'll come out there. But I have a question for you, Dan. It's something I'm anti. I'm kind of against. And you did the show on February 20th on my other Spotify. I kind of listened to it all the way through, and both of you guys made some really good points. The dude from Howl. Introducing wolves to Colorado, and when people fucking decided it was a good idea to bring wolves back, I got really, really upset for a bunch of reasons. But before I give my reasons, I want to see what your reason is back and forth on the whole introduction of wolves to Colorado, because that was the point that I was like, man, I want to hear what this man has to say live. So go ahead.
Well, I can only speak to my experience with wolves.
Yeah.
So I'll just stick to the black and white stuff and stay out of the gray. Yeah. And really,
black and white.
I didn't. That's right. The first wolf.
He's doing our job for us.
What's that?
I said you're doing our job for us.
Got to plug it. Now, my first wolf encounter was not till 2010, but prior to that, I had heard wolves 2008 or 2009. So here I am, 20 years old, elk hunting in Idaho, northern Idaho, and there's wolves that come and go,
small pockets,
undisputable, from Canada down to Washington, over to Idaho, into Montana. But like, there's no effort going on, like wolves, pro wolf people. But we did have the wolf introduction to Yellowstone in 96. That is well documented. And we're talking the numbers, let's just safely say 30,000 plus elk. Go Google, maybe while I'm talking, how many elk are actually in Yellowstone right now. Yeah. I personally went to Yellowstone and I've seen wolves there as well. I didn't see any bull elk while I was there in the summer. This is me. I'd rather see big old velvety bulls eating grass on the side of the road, pulling over with 100 other people, elbowing for a photo opportunity, than to see a pack of wolves eating a bison carcass a mile away in the Lamar Valley. People think wolves are really cool. I understand that. I get that. I have been around so many wolves and seen so many in real life, like hundreds of encounters, that to me, they're a dog, a really big dog. And I've just watched the elk numbers where I started hunting plummet. And I've seen the elk numbers go down to the point where it's really it's a bummer, man. Because I'm a hunter and there's a dichotomy. I want to kill an elk, and I want to eat it, but like I'm also the elk's biggest fan. I'm the huge fanboy of elk, and I want them prevalent. I want them everywhere on the landscape. And if I was not allowed to hunt them, I'd be out there with a camera trying to get as close as possible and take as cool photos. Like, I just obsessed with elk. I think they're the most amazing animal. And ungulates just don't get that love that predators do. You know, the predators somehow on this weird hierarchy, they get ranked higher. Like, you know, no one freaks out if you kill a chicken and eat chicken dinner, but the second you kill a bear and show people you're going to eat it for dinner, people freak out. And Joe Rogan's even talked about that. But my point of all this was that in my elk areas, I don't even hunt in northern Idaho anymore because it's not even close. It's laughable. It's not even like, it's not fun to go because I know what it once was. I knew the kind of experiences I would get out of it. And now I just don't want to deal with seeing bones and no elk tracks in places where elk should be living. It's like made for them. And I even took my daughter when she was 4 years old shed hunting, and I have it. It's on YouTube somewhere where like this giant alpha male wolf just comes running down the road right by us. And it's like, man, like it's changed. In Washington, the state I live in, we have a lot of wolves. We have no management whatsoever. So there's no way for you to keep their numbers in check. And wolves are really good at breeding.
Yes.
And they're really good at killing. And what kills more wolves than anything is wolves. They're very territorial.
Yeah.
Wolves kill wolves. And so it's tough for them. They just get out of hand. And I think there's a reason why they were pretty much wiped off the freaking planet in North America. And I do want them on the landscape. Don't get it twisted. I don't want to make your non-hunting listeners freak F out on me. I do love them. Okay. I do like wolves. I think they have a place, but you can't just drop them off and into an area where they haven't been for over 100 years, let's say, and the elk population in Colorado is robust. And those guys, those poor elk, they ain't going to see it coming. Like they are screwed, and then they will not allow hunting to keep those wolves afraid of man and out of places where man is right now. And I see a lot of problems in your future that I'm experiencing here in my home state, where I don't even hunt in my home state anymore. The hunting's not good. People would rather have cougars, bears, and wolves than any ungulates. And I'm over here rooting for ungulates because they're delicious and I think they're really cool animals. So I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble with your boy guys. Just say, like, I think hunting is a good tool for conservation and wildlife management. And it's hard for people to wrap their mind around that. And I think you got to have both.
That's the thing that I appreciate.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it really good for Yellowstone when they put the wolves back, or is there like mixed feelings about it?
I'm gonna pull up the thing right now.
I heard from what I had
beavers. You got beavers to come back, and you got some willows to start growing again. So you tell me.
That's it.
But then, what did they sacrifice necessarily?
You sacrificed the big game. You sacrificed the deer.
Beavers and willows came back, but then you lost big game.
You lose the things that graze and keep the parasites down. So let's think of it this way. So an elk goes out, eats the kind of the root. They will eat roots. Deers will eat roots. They'll eat the vegetation that's low to the ground. They will forage. They keep the trees clean. They keep most of the fleas and ticks down because they eat all the shit that the fleas and ticks would hide in. So when they're gone, the pest population kind of explodes when you don't have deer in an area. So let's think about it like this. So after the Dust Bowl, deer weren't around the Midwest very much. And what happened was there was a big outbreak of Lyme disease because the Rocky Mountain deer ticks came down and actually started to just lay waste to all the small game as well. So I know that for a fact because I've been hunting small game since I was 10, 12 years old enough to carry a gun responsibly. My uncles, introduced me very early. My issue is that you introduce a wolf to this whole equation, just like they did in Yellowstone. I'm not even going to get into the Yellowstone numbers. I'm going to get into how wolves breed. So a female wolf can rear 4 to 6 pups at a time. They have 9 nipples, so they could potentially have up to 9. What happens through years and years of kind of them selectively breeding the strongest wolves in and out of their population is they're able to have more wolves. So that 4 to 6 turns from 6 to 9 real quick. Every year, based on this study that I just pulled up, I was reading through it while you guys were talking. I'll share this tab instead. So I was reading through the study, and it wasn't this table, but it's one of the tables. I won't bore you guys by going all the way through it. Through that, they predicted, or they found out that the attrition rate or the death rate of those pups was 1.2 per generation cycle, which is 4.3 to 4.7 years. Now, if you keep breeding like we're doing, like say it was a human, you're breeding these people are breeding and developing and growing, having longer lifespans. What happens is the wolves take over. The issue with the wolf introduction in Colorado is there's no fucking plan to manage the goddamn wolves. Like they don't have a plan. I've read
Are they
through
just
this whole
assuming
thing.
that nature will
They're
take
assuming that nature's
course
going to take care of everything. So you're not only
I
going
mean,
to
it
lose
will in time.
but we ain't got that time,
You ain't got
man.
that
What
time.
happens when all the
Do
elk?
they think that
all
like the mountain lions are going to somehow like corral the
Fuck
wolves
no.
or some
A
shit?
mountain lion is the shyest thing I've seen. A mountain lion.
But I'm
before.
saying, is
if
that
it's
what,
outside
like,
of spring, you're good. They won't bother you. If it's
but I'm
in
saying, is that what the
springtime,
state of Colorado is hoping? Like
based
that
on
predators like that will somehow wrangle wolves?
so
Because that's a really dumb take on that.
So the assumption is that nature will balance itself out. Like they go, okay, we've wiped their hands clean of it. Enough people that like wolves, especially in Manitou Springs. Manitou Springs had a voter turnout of 70% for this piece of legislation.
Jesus
The
Christ.
people that live in fucking Manitou Springs just like to look at the mountains for the most part, and they're mostly like people that
Hippies.
kind of just come around and hike and want to see wolves. You can want to see wolves all the fuck you want, but have you ever ran into a wolf? I'll tell you something. I have. I'm not. That's not ever happening to me again. Like I'm not doing that. I was in Washington State actually hiking with a friend.
One fight. That's all you need.
Yeah, I saw him, and then when I saw one, I saw 2 to 3, and we were like, we need to get the fuck off this trail. We need to leave. Like this is not safe. And we
Where
walked
there's
down.
one, there's more.
And they started howling. We were camping. They kept howling all night long, and I was like, these motherfuckers are trying to find us. Like I'm not stupid, but
they probably already found you. They were just picking you off a little bit.
But also with the elk and deer go the bears, and you don't want to lose the bears as well, because bears are the primary. They will hunt down deer and wolves, not wolves, but deer and elk as well, and that balances out the population. If everything is doing fine and dandy the way it is, like I'll give this year or 2022 the exception because we had the elk culling because we had too many females and disease spread. We got a whole bunch of dudes that like to have elk meat, or dudes and ladies like to have elk meat. They gave
Nature
them a free license to kill, and we corrected it. Like we did correct it. I looked at the statistics now. They just did all the biological survey data, and we went down 30% of females in that specific area. I can't remember the area, but it went down, and it's fine. We're good now. But when you introduce something that is an apex predator, pretty much, like if it had thumbs or if it was a little bit taller, a wolf would fuck us up.
Hey, they fuck up vampires, so.
But
I think you guys can both agree. Like, from a standpoint of this is a complicated topic. Like, you cannot just sit there and say, well, wolves are the worst thing. I don't think they should be there. And I see both sides. I don't want to like be a flip flopper, but I have to bring this up. Like, I think we all agree they're cool and they deserve a spot in the starting lineup on the landscape, but they're already in Colorado before you even introduce, and they are going to be in New Mexico, and they've been in California. If you are thinking that I'm full of shit and you're listening to this, go do the research on how far these things can travel for fun. Just like they can go over a couple mountain ranges in a day. They can literally do that, and they can end up from Wyoming into California, up into Washington. They'll disperse on their road. Alpha males don't like up-and-coming alpha males in their territory. Nope. The up-and-comer is going to go make his own way. Nature is good at taking care of things. I just don't think we need to like try to be a catalyst. They are already spreading from Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, Canada, and they're working their way into Colorado. They're in Colorado. Yeah. You're going to have some ranching conflict. You're going to lose some wildlife. You might get some willows to grow back, but you're going to have some human conflict. Humans need to be a part of the equation in balancing. And I guess I'm just saying it is complicated. I don't ignore that.
Yeah. It is complicated. And I appreciated your answer in the beginning too. It was kind of like, I'm going to just lay it out there. It's cool.
I will say, I think sometimes humans, like we want to play God, where we want to like pick and plug, like, oh, hey, there's not enough wolves here, bears there, mountain lions here, whatever, conservation. So we're going to play God. We're going to affect change. We're going to introduce or try to take out like how all those elk were in that one area. But as much as we like to play God, and I'm fucking playing with a child's toy. As much as we kind of like to play God and try to affect change the way we want it, we sometimes like to unfairly deprive ourselves out of, or just take ourselves out of what is the food chain that we still belong in. Like we still have a reserve spot. People would say we're probably the top until you put us out in nature, and then we might not actually, like 9 times out of 10. Yeah, we might win, but there's a good amount of times where if I put us up against mountain lions, only 1 out of 3 of us is coming out alive. So like we're still in the food chain, but we like to act like we have the ability to sprinkle in change wherever we like it, and then exclude ourselves from what changes that makes. So like how you said, if there is going to be some human interaction, you're going to lose cattle, you're going to have some ranching issues. Remember that as much as you want that change when it's good for you, you're still part of that food chain. So when adverse things happen, you are going to be affected.
People forget that choices have consequences, I think, and no one thinks 5 years down the road except for the federal government with money. The federal government with money is the only group of people that
they
think
don't
5 years
think
down
about
the road.
anything.
I promise you, I see them. I don't say the government. I'll say certain departments, they 5-year plans and everything, and you know, I just wish people thought about the choices of their actions. Let's put it that way. I'll leave it at that. But I don't think that we should reintroduce a whole bunch of wolves to fucking Colorado. You can put me on the record as saying that.
Let's reintroduce Elkshape and Dan some other time. I don't want to cut this short.
Yeah.
Although my boy is getting fussy, and I'm gonna have to take a nap with him. Kurt, dude, oh my god, the greatest thing about being home for daddy daycare is taking naps with a kid. It's the greatest thing in the world. But man, it was so nice having you on. Maybe someday we'll get to bring you back, talk some fitness, and then we'll introduce some things that you get done between now and then. But other than that, I'd love if you want to tell the people where they can find you, where the best place is to get information from you, how they can contact you, even if it takes a little bit to get an answer from you.
Oh, right on. No, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, the Elkshape is on the places except for TikTok. I'm not a TikToker guy, so sorry, not sorry. But yeah, no, Instagram's fine. That's cool, or our website or whatever. But no, we're selling hard work, and we believe in that. And I can tell you guys are hard workers, so it's good to talk to fellow hard workers.
Dude, it's awesome. It's been great, like talking to you. And then if you need anything, reach out to us. Let us know if we can connect you with somebody that you would like to talk to or would be interested in what you have. By all means, we'll do it. And if you know somebody that wants to talk about stuff for an hour at a minimum, then send them our way, dude.
Yeah,
right on, guys.
If you want to take a quick scroll through our Spotify or our iTunes, you can see whoever we've gotten in touch with. Yeah. I would say that we have pretty good relations with just about everybody that we've had on here. I don't actually think that we've had a bad one.
No.
Have we, Ken?
No, we haven't.
No. Okay.
No.
Well,
not yet.
Other than that, man, you have a great day. Go get after whatever you're doing. We'll get in touch with you and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Awesome, guys. God bless. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Easy.